Welcome back to Bots and Thoughts, the hyperautomation podcast, sponsored by Salient Process. I'm your host, Jimmy Hewitt, aka Mr. Automation. Hello and welcome to another special guest episode of Bots and Thoughts, the hyperautomation podcast, brought to you by Salient Process. With the holidays in full swing, we are delighted to bring you this holiday special. Similar to, but slightly different from our usual focus on digital business automation and hyperautomation, this Director of Strategic Planning and Performance Management brings a dash of something special to the table. And that is his unique and acute emphasis on culture in the context of process improvement. In addition to Dr. Keith's fascinating personal journey as a process excellence professional, which you are sure to be captivated by, he gets into the weeds on his favorite topic of culture. What weak culture looks like, how to create and galvanize a strong culture, how his success with one department at Palm Beach County led to success within over 30 departments, and much more. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy our holiday special on culture with Dr. Keith Clinkscales, Director of Strategic Planning and Performance at Palm Beach County, Florida.
But I am really grateful for you to be on the show. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Hey, I'm thankful that you even, like, out of all of these folks, you checked me down.
Yeah, man.
And picked me. So I feel honored. I
Dr.
don't know why. I don't know about why me.
Well, let's find out.
Yeah, let's find out.
I was at your presentation yesterday, and it was all about culture.
Culture.
And what stood out most to me was real executive sponsorship versus fake executive sponsorship. So that's what I want to really get into today.
Okay.
But before we do, I'd love to get to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
If you don't mind just telling our audience who is Dr. Keith, what got you into this space originally. We can go from there.
So interesting. I have sort of an interesting story. I left Youngstown, Ohio at the age of 18.
I live in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So I went to my adolescence in Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio. And interesting enough, I applied for different colleges, but they were all within Ohio. And so I was actually going to Hiram College when I got a letter from Boston University saying, we want to give you a college scholarship to come to Boston University College of Engineering. I literally packed up everything that I owned in my father's Army suitcase trunk. My family took me down to the Greyhound at midnight, and the journey started there. I got on the Greyhound bus from Youngstown, Ohio to Boston, Massachusetts. Had never been to Massachusetts before in my life. And I got to Boston, and I said, I had resolve. Failure is not an option. I'm not going back. I got in engineering school. I never forget the first huge freshman class, Chemistry 101, and the professor said, look to your left, look to your right. One of you is not going to be here next semester.
And you said, not me.
I said, that's not going to be me. I'm not going, this is a failure is not an option.
Yes.
Fast forward, engineering. 1984, graduated engineering.
Industrial?
Electrical engineering.
Electrical. Okay, cool.
Electrical engineering. But I got recruited right out of engineering school, and I went into a company called Digital Equipment Corporation. It was second only to IBM in personal computers.
Oh, wow.
But digital was very, very innovative. They taught me total quality management. I was hired as a quality engineer.
Sure.
And if you know anything about quality engineering, it's like, and I was in external products group. So I was responsible for traveling to all the vendors and looking at their processes and qualifying them to provide products to digital.
Wow.
That put me on the road a lot, very early. And I had to walk in almost like an expert, you know? And so I learned process improvement and how executives think and what are the touch points and what does it mean to have executive leadership at a very early age. So I work with all of these companies in terms of process improvement, total quality management. How do you do simple problem solving tools, inventory management, process excellence? Because I'm actually trying to qualify and make sure what they provide to us is of high quality. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, you need to understand their process. Mm-hmm. So fast forward.
How long do you spend at each site? Was it a week, a month?
I would, if I went to, now this is when I went at digital, mm-hmm. I would spend like a week. So I would get there maybe like a Sunday night, go on Monday morning. They would walk me through the whole plant it's usually from the receiving all the way to the product being shipped. Mm-hmm. out to us. Mm-hmm. And I would be asking questions. I'd be taking questions. I'd be looking at the manufacturing, their quality. How do they do inspections? How much inventory do they have? Mm-hmm. So I gained this appreciation for process. Cool. Became a process guru, and I loved it.
Yeah.
What's great about I love processing. What was great about it, you love processes too?
Big process.
Yeah. And one thing I learned is that if you can define it as a process, you can improve it.
Mm-hmm. And if you can't define it as a process, it's hard to improve it.
It's hard to improve it because the process you can measure. And I always say you manage what you measure, you measure what you manage. So
Jack Welch.
There you go. So fast forward, and I studied, watched Jack Welch, Deming.
He was in your presentation.
I did all of this, Peter Drucker. I just gravitated. Quality engineering was sort of like the precursor to all of this TQM, process improvement, all that kind of stuff. So I was in the right place.
It's all process.
And what was great about it is I could actually say that I went to this company and this company and this company and this company. Fast forward 8 years of doing that, I went from a entry-level engineer to a principal quality engineer.
Wow.
And suddenly I got a phone call from a management consulting firm. And it's interesting how when you are passionate about what you do, people seek you out. Mm-hmm. Almost every major job that I've had has been because somebody's tapped me on the shoulder. So I got this call. They said, we're looking for engineers who can actually help solve business problems. And so I left digital and I started with PRTM, particular Raven Todd McGrath, who's now part of PwC.
Oh, wow.
Was bought by PwC. When I got to PRTM, then it sort of ratcheted up because now I'm actually being paid to go into all these different clients.
As a consultant. Map stuff out. What did that look like? Was it any particular industry?
It was interesting because PRTM had the chemical industry, computer industry, telecom industry, pharmaceutical industry, and medical device industry.
And you were specialized in the computer industry.
Right. So interesting enough, they wanted me originally. My first set of clients were all computer industry.
Makes sense.
And they were Zenith. ZDF, the Prime Computers, companies that don't exist anymore.
Okay.
Full information systems.
Yeah, great job managing consulting.
So what's interesting, So at some point, the computer industries merged into telecom type of industries, AT&T, Lucent. So I started doing some telecom.
Sure.
Computer telecom started merging into some of our clients who were doing medical devices because to put together a PerkinElmer or Siemens medical system is very similar to putting together a manufacturing process for a computer.
Sure.
So now I started being pulled into the medical device industry. Sure. And I worked with a lot of medical device companies.
High-tech
hardware,
sure.
Medical device. Medical device then led into the life sciences practice, which was chemistry and pharma. So I went to Merck, I went to Pfizer, I went to Eli Lilly, I went to all these different companies. And now I'm like, okay, I did PRTM for 8 years. So the last 4, I was considered a life sciences. Now imagine I went the progression. Computer. So now I'm considered a life sciences process.
From electrical engineer to life management.
Right.
Yeah, at that point, you had seen it all.
Then I've seen it all.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is once you develop sort of operational excellence in all these areas, you no longer are industry specific. You are practice specific. I became now known as an operational excellence consultant.
Sure.
Fast forward, I did 8 years of PRTM. I get tapped on the shoulder by PA Consulting. PA Consulting was larger, located in Cambridge, Massachusetts, said, we want you to be a partner and help co-partner our life sciences operational excellence practice.
Sounds great.
Yes. The progression was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but wait till you see how I got to Florida. Okay, so I did life sciences for as a partner for PA Consulting for about 2 years, and 9/11 hit. 9/11, I was literally on a plane the same morning as 9/11 out of Boston to North Carolina to my client. And I landed, I got in the car to drive to the client site, and the radio was on, and they said, plane just hit the World Trade Center. From then on, little did I know, my entire life would change. Because I literally they shut down flights into Boston for a long time. So me and the consultants had to drive from North Carolina to Boston. Fast forward, months went by, and the consultant industry, at least for PA consultant, majority of the consultant industry, because it's all based on flying to clients and
travel.
It just changed everything. We couldn't rebound. And we started, the company started offering packages. Severance packages is what we call them. And my wife and my family, we had been traveling to Florida on a regular basis. Her brother moved down here. Then her mother moved down here. We kept coming, bringing the kids. And we said, and everybody kept saying, it's just a matter of time, guys. It's just a matter of time. I couldn't see it because I had a whole infrastructure. I had a house there, the consulting job. Everything was going great. And then disruption.
Yeah.
So we said, you know what, let's sell a house and move to Florida, because I was out of that high paying consulting job.
Yeah.
Let's start over. And then, we can, the easy life in Florida. We'll stay with my in-laws. I got down here. I was overqualified for everything. All the operational excellence and the process improvement and all that stuff, it wasn't as hot down here.
It's very cyclical.
It's very cyclical. And not only that, the industries weren't here. All the industries that I work for, computer, telecom, chemical, pharmaceutical, people told me, they said, you're either going to have to work for Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Office Depot.
Yep.
Or it was a beverage company. I don't know if it was Pepsi or
Southern Glacier Wine and Spirits.
Okay, one of those.
Yeah.
Because those were the big ones down here. So I actually
Opex.
Exactly. Yeah. So I ended up landing in Office Depot headquarters in Boca Raton. And one of the areas of my consulting background was because I had originally had a quality engineering background, which took me to a lot of suppliers. I built on, even some of my clients in consulting some of my projects were all procurement related, purchasing and procurement related, re-engineering or purchasing organization, or joint service agreements with our suppliers, or reducing lead time from our suppliers, or quality of suppliers. So
can't imagine how many suppliers Home Depot has.
There you go, a lot. This was Office Depot. Actually.
Office Depot. Still tens of thousands.
Right. Yes. So I became the senior procurement manager for Office Depot. Now I'm back in the company after many, many years of consulting. And I enjoyed it. I had a staff of buyers and all that. And we did some process improvement. We did some re-engineering, how we do RFPs and how we do this and all that. That was 2004. Fast forward 2008, recession hit. I'm back on the street again. Office Depot start laying people off. 2008. From 2008 to 2015, I did everything you could possibly think of in terms of an hourly job.
Wow.
I went from a $200,000 salary in consulting to $11 an hour. Man. As an Ally Barton security guard.
That 200,000 was in the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't see that no more, right?
No, that's like 4 to 6.
Right. It's and up north.
Yeah.
So I got my security license and I became a security guard. I did Ally Barton.
Wow.
And I worked with a staffing company who got me jobs. And fast forward, the staffing company said, well, there's actually a job in Palm Beach County working in transit as a dispatcher. A dispatcher. Yeah, man. I said, I'll take it. It was temporary for 3 months. After 3 months, they said, we want to hire you. Became full-time dispatcher. Now, mind you, that's why I wrote a book called Your Attitude is Your Breakthrough.
You wrote a book.
Yeah, my book is out on Amazon called Your Attitude is Your Breakthrough, because I always had to have the right attitude. And it's kind of like, you can be an ego and you might have to be with the chickens for a while, but you got to remember that you're an ego.
Yeah.
And so I would go into my job as a dispatcher with the same shirt with the cufflinks and suspenders and my tie.
And now you lead. I don't want to get to the end of the story, but this is such a cool story.
So I'll move really quickly. Now I'm in Palmtran, and the CEO, which is the new CEO of Palmtran, says he's going to travel to all the different locations and get to know the people. So he comes in the dispatch room,
sees your cufflinks,
and sees me and sees this guy with suspenders and a shirt with cufflinks, and all the other dispatchers are in jeans and t-shirts and polo shirts. And he's like, well, who the hell are you? What do you do? I said, well, sir, I'm an engineer, and I did this, and this. I did management consulting, performance improvement, da, da, da. And I said, and please, if anything comes up, please remember me.
How could you forget?
Fast forward some months later. It was interesting because Palmtran was audited by the internal inspector general. And inspector general, and he was a new executive director, but right before him, they were actually cited for their performance measures.
Which is not a good thing.
No. They were saying they were like 98, and they were really 94 in one area. Or, their entire scorecard. It was found out that they were sort of cooking the books in terms of their performance measures. And so, and this was public, so I'm not saying that wasn't public, a public record. They were told to create a performance management office that would be separate and apart, that would hold them accountable, that would establish performance measures, that would be at high of integrity. The data would be boom. So a requisition came out. A job requisition came out.
Man, does that have your name written all over it?
And someone said, you need to go for this. You need to go for this. Now, mind you, I'm here making $15 an hour. The position is up here. So everybody that I had been working with knew me here. They didn't know my background. They didn't know I had an engineering degree. They didn't know how, So it was a shock when people found out that I applied for it. And interesting enough, the executive director originally told me later, he said, HR did not want to give you an interview. They didn't want to give me an interview. Because it seems such a far stretch, just crazy.
Yeah, dispatcher.
Listen, they gave me a phone screen first. Mm-hmm. I passed the phone screen. Then they said, okay, you're going to get an interview. They said, you're going to get an email on a Friday. It's going to give you instructions for the interview and tell you when you're going to interview. I got the email. It said on Tuesday, you need to have a PowerPoint presentation that lasts no more than 20 minutes. You will be timed. That will tell us how you would develop and create a performance management office organization, what resources would you need, who would report to you, how would you break down silos, how would you, solidify the data, how would you create a performance management for all of PalmTran. Now, PalmTran is like the transit agency. I don't know where you're originally from, but just think about your public transportation. Mm-hmm. That's what that was for.
Yeah.
West Palm Beach.
3 days.
Right. So Friday, and they said you need to have it on USB and 7 copies, and you're going to come and present you gotta go to with this entire leadership team. And after you present, after 20 minutes is up, you're going to sit down and we're going to ask you questions about your presentation.
Well, that's your jam.
Okay.
Knock the rust off, get your management consulting back together.
I had to, but that's why I wrote the book, Your Attitude is Your Breakthrough. Can you imagine what's going through my head? It's like, how am I going to do this? Where do I start? Right. Where do I start? My daughter had just got accepted to Florida State University. And that Friday, we drove her up to Tallahassee. I stayed in the hotel while my mother, my wife got her situated, got her in a dorm, and I studied. Yeah. I Googled transit agency, performance in transit.
Smart.
What are the top metrics? What are the all the issues related to process improvement, ridership, on-time delivery, safety, maintenance. Sure. So I'm like, okay, I know what the scorecards are. I know what the top metrics are. Now, how do I actually get all of, because they asked me what my resources and how many people I need. Mm-hmm. I said, I want to go in not saying that I need a whole lot of people because I'm going to utilize.
Yeah.
He said, all of them are going to work for this effort.
Smart.
So pretty much what I presented today is almost identical. I created 9 teams.
Yeah.
One was safety. One was customer service, satisfaction. One for the paratransit. One for the fixed route. On-time delivery team. Ridership team. Marketing.
No new hires.
No new hires. All I need is 1 or 2 analysts.
Yeah.
So they can,
crunch
do
data.
the grammar, do the Excel spreadsheet, crunch data, put out the metrics, create the scorecards.
Yes.
Fast forward, I got the job. Now, interesting enough, this executive director had come from, he had worked at Ohio Transit as a director. He had worked at Miami-Dade. So when he opened up this position that was going to report to him, who do you think applied? People that knew him from these other.
Yeah.
They all came in. Now, these are transit professionals.
Yeah, and you beat all of them.
All of them.
Dr. Keith.
I came in. One, my whole look was different because none of his staff, no one had ever seen me in professional gear. I had my A game. I brought my A game, and he said that was a problem with majority of the people that came in for the job because they knew him. They was very laissez-faire about.
Yeah.
They just came in and they thought they were going to get it because they knew him. They had worked with him in other transit agencies. I came in like my life depended on it.
Yeah, man.
It did. So cool. Now, just fast forward really quickly. I did that for 2015 to 2017.
Real quick, I'm sorry. About at this time, how big was the organization? How many people were in?
Right. So PalmTran has about 650 employees.
Okay.
With an executive director, different levels, executive leadership team, 650. Okay. But PalmTran is one of 35 departments that make up Palm Beach County. And the Board of County Commissioners and the county administrator are over all 35 departments. So fast forward, 2015, now it's 2017. The scorecards, my performance reports, all of that is sort of making headway.
Yeah.
The cross-department teams that I formed presented every 3 months to all of PalmTran. So we started inviting other executives from the county. They came in and said, "Oh my God, the teams are working, are problem solving, and they use, we had instituted benchmarking, boom, boom, boom." The boss, Clinton, the executive director's boss, who is the county administrator over all 35 departments, said, "I want this.
I want this everywhere.
I want this everywhere. I've always wanted, she said, I always had a vision for a strategic planning and performance management division of the county that does this." She took the requisition that was used to create my position, and all of a sudden, what came out on the job board is Director of Palm Beach County Strategic Planning and Performance Management. Somebody walked into my office and said, "Keith, bam.
This is for you.
This is for you.
Yeah.
You've got to go." I'm like, "What?" I said, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this for the whole county.
Yeah.
And I was right back to that same guy who was
the dispatcher,
saying, "I got to do this. I got to try to sell this again."
Such a good opportunity. You're 35Xing.
Yeah. I applied.
And you brought it.
I brought my A game.
Yeah, you did.
And I mean, there were consultants that had applied. There were people all over the county. So this guy from Miami-Dade applied.
Probably all over the state.
All over the state.
Yeah.
Wanted this position.
Country.
And I got it.
Yeah, you did. Of course you did.
Now I'm back to where I'm like completely back to where I was when I left Austin.
You got your team building. You got your functional teams. You bring your analysts.
Now multiply. I got
times 35.
35 different departments.
35 different scorecards.
Yeah, and department heads.
Yeah.
And in those different departments, they have divisions. So each division is almost the size. Some of the divisions are the size of PalmTran. In a department. So when you think of public safety, they got victim services, they got legal services, they got environment, EOC, emergency management. They got all divisions. That's how big some of the departments are.
So are we at like from 800 people to 8,000 people?
Now we're at 7,000 people.
7,000 people. Just a quick 10x.
Yeah.
So did these department heads? Were you met with resistance?
Yes.
When you came in, hey,
Yes.
we're going to do scorecards. I'm going to measure you.
This is what I did. So I'm on board, right? And I started in April. The first thing I did for all of April and all of May is I went on and said, I need one-on-ones. I did one-on-ones with every single department.
35 one-on-ones.
35.
On that is to me spending time with the folks who you're trying to enact change with.
Yeah, they needed to like, who is this guy who just got?
You got to break bread.
Right.
You got to communicate.
There you go.
I'm sure you did a lot of listening.
I did a lot of listening. Because when I went into their office, and some of them actually, I showed up and they had their division heads with them. Some of them just wanted sort of just them, but some of them actually said, "No, I want my whole staff to hear what you're talking about." And so I just sat down like this, and I had a notepad, and I said, "Can you tell me what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the county?"
You did 35 SWATs.
35.
Wow.
And I said, and all I did was I took the S and I wrote everything they said. I took W, everything they said. when I got finished with all those interviews, I took all the S's and put them together, all the W's. The number one thing that it sort of laid out my plan.
Yeah.
Almost what was the silos. Number one.
Yeah.
Now, there was two others. One was controversial. One was a department that they all said is the root of all the problems. And I really say the department because
it was the libraries, wasn't it?
It wasn't
I'm just
libraries.
kidding.
No, you're okay.
It was a good people.
But it's a common denominator. It was a common denominator. So I still trying to address that issue.
Oh, wow.
Because I put that on the back burner because there's sensitivity there.
Sure.
But the silos I knew how to address. And so I put together a workshop in November. Every November is a budget workshop with the county commissioners. We changed it to a strategic workshop.
Nice.
No, it wasn't.
Oh,
it went very well. But what wasn't nice was I was on the hot seat.
Sure.
Because now this new guy, for the very first time, we had it at the convention center. That's how big it was.
You're running.
All the department heads were seated in like the peanut gallery behind me. I'm here, and on that side are the 7 commissioners, and I'm presenting to them, here's what I'm recommending, new vision of the county. Here's the new mission of the county. Here's the strategic priorities where you had like almost 15 in 2013, and no one, and now this is 2019. No one has ever looked at. I'm recommending these 6. And by the way, I did a SWOT analysis, and there's some things that you might want to know. So the first one of the commissioners said, "Well, what did you find in the SWOT analysis?" And I had to really be it's very different in public versus private industry where I came from. You got to be very sensitive to almost everything you say because it becomes all becomes public record. I said, well, I met with all the departments and one thing reigned through. They're very, very good vertically in what they do.
Well said.
Yeah.
That's how you say
something. Yeah. In their department, they are focused, they're laser focused, and they do great at what they do. But they all agree that they work in silos. They have no idea what the other departments are doing. And so my goal is to try to figure a way to break the silos and tie the departments to your strategic priorities. And so my next slides was 6 core team wheels. The first one was one of the strategic priorities. And I had spokes of all the departments I think needed to be on that team. And then I went to the next one.
You did the mixing and matching.
Yeah, I had already done that because part of my assessment leading up to it was I asked all the departments, all of these priorities, do you do any work in this area? Do you do time? You got money, resources in this area?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we do all this with the homeless. Oh yeah, we do all this with economic development. Oh, we do substance use, and as a matter of fact, in parks, majority of the substance use and behavior disorder folks, parks is the number 1 place for suicides. Like, oh, they need to be on that team. You see, those are the kind of conversations I was having.
Yeah, you're breaking down, finding the commonalities, similarities between the 35 departments, and aligning them towards one of the 6 or some of the 6 strategies that you came up with by interviewing them.
That gets to how I started to begin the executive leadership.
How was that received when you first hatched this cross-functional, cross-departmental alignment to some of 6 strategies? How was that received?
Very well.
Really? Because it made sense, or what do you think?
I think because it just made sense.
It makes sense.
Well, one thing that as soon as I said silos, everyone's head said, "Yeah." Even the commissioner, they said, "Yeah."
So that's your gift.
It was a gift to me.
Well, that's your gift to them.
Yeah.
Is breaking down those silos.
Breaking down those silos.
They all knew they existed, or maybe they didn't know existed until you showed them.
Right, but see, here's the thing.
You help them.
Yeah, the resistance didn't come until it's like the honeymoon. You got the honeymoon period.
Sure.
When they don't really know what it means. They don't know what's going to be required of them.
Okay.
But then, so now look at this room right here. You put everyone around from all the different departments that have never actually sat down with each other. Mm-hmm. And the first few meetings are like, oh my God, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know. Oh, this is great. Yeah. Then I had to actually do a lot of teaching and a lot of training. And so a little bit on forming, storming, norming, and performing.
Nice.
As any team that you go through, they're going to go through it. You see, the forming the team was easy.
Yeah, it made sense.
You eventually get to storming. It's like, no, I don't see how that's a part of this team. That's what we do. That's our role. That's our job.
They get territorial, defensive, protective.
Oh yes. And it was interesting because I would see like someone putting on a function, say for hypothetical, a backpack, going back to school, huge backpack program for kids.
Sure. Well, big backpack program.
Yeah, big backpack program. You realize the department that's doing it is not the youth services department. It's not the community service department. As a matter of fact, they have no role. They may like individually chime in, but there's no collaboration. It's one department that has always done it.
Which one?
It's called the Office of Community Revitalization.
Not youth services.
No.
You would think they would help.
I would have thought that they would have been the smart. They would have been the one to do it every year. They would own it. So you had those things, but that department has always done it. And the question. We've always
done it that way.
So now just magnitude that's one small example, but imagine many, many, many examples like that where departments own certain things. And that's their validation. That's their. So how do you actually begin to get them to water utilities is always responsible for all the water going to the homes, but engineering does the road and bridges to the homes, around the homes. How do you get them to collaborate? And so that you do it, if you're going in that area, tear it up once versus 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So some of this stuff just started to make sense. And then it's interesting enough, they start winning awards for the amount of collaboration that they do.
So just a quick comment on that. What I'm seeing is this is not possible unless you do the research, do the SWOT analysis, find the strategies, align the teams, get the teams together, get the teams talking, storming, norming, Storming is where it seems like the magic really happens. That's where a lot of the friction is. The good ideas start to come out, and then they start to norm and then perform.
Right.
It doesn't seem possible without communication. Communication breaks down silos.
Yes, tons of communication. And it's interesting because the pandemic actually helped us in this respect. Because, so I did for each of the teams, I did a 2-hour team orientation. And I went through, I created a deck just like this. You remember some of the slides I show, even the videos that I show?
Yeah.
Those were my original presentation. Really? Where I showed the dogs and they all closed the gate together and the donkey. Those were in my teaming presentation because I had to give, and even the pictures of what I don't want the team to look like and what I do, I want all the teams to look like superheroes.
Yeah, the Avengers.
Those are all original slides.
Makes sense.
I have to give visuals of exactly what we're trying to create. Vision is everything. Without the vision, people perish.
I think this has a ton of applicability to the world, both public and private, both public service and private enterprise. You get a project any project worth solving, any transformational project, I should say, cuts across multiple teams, cuts across multiple divisions, departments. Any strategy worth pursuing, I should say, cuts across multiple teams.
Right.
And I'd be willing to bet that these teams that each touch quote to cash, even though you think it's all sales, it's really sales, legal, operations, procurement, accounting, finance, product. Those are 6 to 7 teams that all have their role in this long-running workflow.
There you go.
And
I did the same.
They aren't communicating as much as they should be. I bet if we get an executive sponsor to say, "Hey, here's Dr. Keith. He's gonna figure out this strategy. He's gonna solve this major pain point," and we form cross-functional teams. I bet they'll be on board. I bet they'll start communicating. I bet they'll pitch into process mapping workshops and design thinking workshops, and they'll sponsor pilots.
Yeah, all of that comes from it. Because what you've done is you set the environment for it all to happen.
So how did you go from an electrical engineer to, like, I don't know, Mr. Culture?
Well, it's a progression, because the electrical engineering got me in the door as an engineer, but I was in the quality world. I was picked up as a quality engineer. Quality engineering gets into all, it's all about total quality management. Then it went into Six Sigma, all of that type of stuff.
Which is process.
Right. And then it led me into teams in the private industry and consulting industry. Give you an example: sales and operations. And there was a major. We sold a lot of projects because sales and marketing and manufacturing never talked. Sales would sell something, throw over the board, and operations and manufacturing got to make it work. Mm-hmm. Manufacturing and operations always blame sales and marketing for selling something that doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Sales and marketing said, "We sold it. The revenue's coming in. You need to figure out a way to make it sense." That's where the term sales and operations planning came, where you had the sales and marketing folks and the operations and logistics folks sitting down at the table saying, "Okay, we're going to create this new product. But by the way, we're going to design it for manufacturing." So we created cross-department teams way back then, saying, "Okay, let's get everybody on the so it's not like like you throw over the wall, an after effect."
Right.
So it works
in
private.
You have to form these teams.
Now, once you form the teams, then everything metrics, how you measure, communication is there, all of that. Now, where the culture comes, you start to realize that. My mentor told me my first engineering job, he said, "Keith, R comes before I." I said, "What do you mean, sir?" He said, "Keith, in the alphabet, R comes before I. Always remember that." He said, "Relationships before issues." Build the relationships with someone before you just walk in their office and start trying to solve a problem or address an issue. So that was like, okay, shoot, I got to remember that. I got to get people to communicate and form a relationship.
Yeah, before you just process mapping workshops and what are all the worst things that happen on your team.
Exactly. I mean, we're not forming these teams. You can't just jump to solutions and we don't like each other. Or you know what I mean? There's no relationship.
This is such a refreshing message for leaders to hear in 2022, coming into 2023 in 2.5 months. The pandemic has gotten a lot of people working from home and logging in to a Zoom meeting for 25 minutes at a time, getting done what they need to get done, and then logging into their next meeting, going from room to room.
That's why I said the pandemic has helped us.
So I think this is a really timely, really necessary message to maybe spend the first 5 minutes of your meeting on R before you spend the rest of the 25 minutes of the meeting on I.
You're right on, Jimmy. You're right on.
Man, also let's stay safe, but let's get some more office meetings going. Let's get the consultants back in the air.
Yeah.
Let's get the teams traveling together. Let's do more quarterly planning, yearly, team building. Let's form cross-functional teams. let's keep talking, or let's start talking. Let's keep getting to know each other and how things go. And we might find that we're doing the same thing, or our peers are doing something better. Man.
And put the icing on the cake. You got to make sure they win together. Publicly.
And celebrate those wins. Yes. Thank you.
And celebrate publicly. One of the greatest motivations of these teams that I've created for the county is that they get to present to the Board of County Commissioners every November. The teams do. I show up and I say, I have with me the 6 cross-department teams, commissioners. Their order will be this, and this. First up is the infrastructure team. Bam, they hit the podiums. And it's to the point where they're alternating. These are folks who ordinarily would have never have an audience.
No, or know each other. And they're talking like they're best friends.
Celebrating
successes.
Yes. So
that's the dream.
That's it, man.
Well, hey, that's why I asked you on the podcast. This is not what we normally talk about on Bots and Thoughts, the hyper automation podcast. We talk about digital business automation, but we're going to call this the special culture episode.
Okay.
Because it's a missing link to these projects.
Right.
We automate business processes that cut across departments and divisions.
Wow.
And we could do a better job, and I think a lot of our listeners could do a better job, correct me if I'm wrong, forming cross-functional teams.
Wow.
So thank you.
You know, the other thing, I'll just tie this into what you guys do. When I did it as a management consultant, we would do all the things that I just talked about. And then what started coming our way was all the automation, the ERP systems, the SAP, the Oracles, JD Edwards, all the solution providers. And we said the wrong way that some organizations were doing is they were just coming in and automating a process, fixing the problem with the automation. We said, no, come in after we have laid the groundwork, worked as a team, streamlined, created a new process, and now we're ready for bots and thoughts. Automate that.
Yeah.
Because what you don't want to do is automate something that you're doing wrong and just make it faster. You want to take all of that, redundancy out. Because right now, if you got multiple departments all doing something redundantly, you need to integrate all that and then lay on the technology.
Yeah. Man, this is refreshing. We do a lot of process mapping, analysis, advisory, identify opportunities, automate them. I think we could sprinkle in a little bit of alignment in there. Yeah, align your teams and improve your process before you automate it. Automating doesn't necessarily improve it.
If you spoke that, you get in the door, because then they're saying, he's just not a techie. He's a process person. He's a process guy.
Yeah. Process, people,
and
productivity,
and technology.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again.
Pleasure.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Such a good job.
All right. Take care, Jimmy.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Bots and Thoughts, the hyperautomation podcast, sponsored by Salient Process. Be sure to never miss an episode by hitting that subscribe button wherever you're listening to this. Get your hands on more content like this by following us on LinkedIn and YouTube down in the show notes, and say hello. We'd love to hear your thoughts, perhaps even on an upcoming episode. Stay tuned for more episodes of Bots and Thoughts, the hyperautomation podcast, brought to you by Salient Process.